So just to be perfectly clear, this is not the Henk de Vries talk. I was told that he canceled, and I offered to fill in with my coreboot presentation last minute, so this will be about coreboot and not about the talk that Henk de Vries was going to give. I'm going to talk to you quickly about who I am. I'm going to talk a bit about coreboot, some history of coreboot, the competition that we're facing, the motivation for coreboot. I'm going to talk about payloads because that's a big important concept in coreboot. We've also developed a couple of auxiliary tools during the time that we've been working on coreboot, and I'll mention those. I have sort of a demo. Unfortunately, I don't have demo hardware with me, but I'm going to do the next best thing and show you guys a video presentation or a clip of a previous presentation where I did have hardware with me. So it's almost like the real thing. I'm going to talk a bit about security, attack, defenses that can be relevant for coreboot. Not right now, sorry, I have to call you back. Hello? Hi there, I'm up on stage at HAR giving a presentation right now, so I have to call you back. Can I do that? Thank you. Bye. Okay, these things happen. Security stuff, attacks, defenses. I'm going to sort of come to a conclusion, and then I have some thanks and links for you guys. Who am I? My name is Stuge, you heard that already. I'm a self-employed consultant in southern Sweden. I do software, hardware, security work, everything from microcontrollers to databases and systems design and whatever. And I also have an interest in security and try to help out there whenever I can. I discovered coreboot in 2001 when I was working as a developer for a hardware company. We were working on developing a set-top box for viewing TV over IP. And this was a PC platform. It was a custom mainboard, but it was still a pretty plain standard PC system. So, of course, we needed a BIOS. We needed something to help us get the operating system running. And I discovered coreboot, or Linux BIOS, as it was called back then. And I thought, this is a really cool project. We should use this in our product. Unfortunately, we chose another firmware, but I stayed with the project because I really liked the idea. And I like to think that I stayed mostly silent watching for a couple of years, but apparently there are some people saying that I was pretty active on the mailing list already back in the start. Anyway, in 2006, there was a developer meeting in Hamburg. And that's not really far from southern Sweden, so I decided to drive down and get together with all the other coreboot developers. I had just installed coreboot on a small via EPIA mainboard in my car, and I talked a little bit about my experience from that as a new user in the project or a newcomer. Because I thought there were some usability issues, usability issues even for developers when trying to implement coreboot. It was kind of tricky, so I wanted to work on that a bit. I took a great part in the design of version 3. I talked a lot about how I would like things to work, improving the design of version 2 wherever possible. We started out designing version 3 at this developer meeting in Hamburg. I've also done a lot of work on Flash ROM, which is one of the utilities that I'm going to talk about in a bit. Likewise, MSR tool, which is a debugging utility. I've hacked a bit on Philo, a bootloader that goes well with coreboot. I've done some K8, some of the K8 things in coreboot. And I tried to do user support and marketing of coreboot as well, because that's important too. So some history for coreboot. The project first started in 1999, so this is a 10-year anniversary. This year is a 10-year anniversary. It was called version 1. The repository name was FreeBIOS. It was the first try. It was really, really simple, maybe 5 lines of code. The truth is it turned out not to work so great with just that little code. It needs to do a bit more. It supported roughly 50 boards eventually, and it still runs in some systems that are deployed. About 2001, version 2 came about, and it had a bit more structure, a little bit better structure than the first attempt. Not so much of a hack. It supports some 140 main boards right now. And in 2006, we started coreboot version 3 at the meeting in Hamburg. A lot better structure, I think, not such a bad hack. It doesn't have that many main boards supported, and by now it's actually sort of stopped. Development has stopped there, but we did a lot of nice things in version 3, and we're trying to move them back into version 2. So version 2 remains the popular version and the main, really main repository for the project. But we're moving stuff in from version 3. Most notably, maybe lately, is kconfig. So version 2 previously used a proprietary, well, not closed source, but still our own configuration file format. And turns out that's not really so easy to work with. And for version 3, I really pushed kconfig, the configuration system which is used for the Linux kernel. So that's in version 3, and it's also on its way back into version 2 right now. So I think that's really good. We managed to do design testing on a handful, several embedded x86 mainboards using the G8LX CPU from AMD. So what is coreboot? I think you're all brave for being here because the program was changed a little bit last minute and there wasn't a lot of detail. So I'm happy to see you guys here. Coreboot is a BIOS replacement, an open source BIOS replacement for PCs. So an x86 firmware. And looking at the BIOS, what does the BIOS do? It has 2 tasks. The BIOS does hardware initialization. First off, it starts up the system so that software can run on it and can use all parts of the system. Then the BIOS goes on to start the operating system. It loads the master boot record, or it reads the master boot record from hard drive. It might start up a bootloader. Maybe you're using Lilo or Grub. Or it can read a CD-ROM or a USB memory stick. And the BIOS also provided interrupt services. That's a software API for applications running in the system to do basic input-output. That's what the acronym is stand for. In reality, no one is using these interrupt services anymore. All the operating systems nowadays, they have their own drivers for every piece of hardware. So the interrupt services have become pretty much obsolete. Only DOS is really using them, and the very early stages of some bootloaders also use them. So we have hardware in it, and we have the operating system starting. Why do we even look at coreboot? What's the purpose of this? Why are we doing this? There's a number of reasons. First of all, it's open source, and none of the traditional PC firmware vendors have open source products. So that's a big deal.